Ooh. Hello, everybody. Good evening. It's June
Hey, where
14th.
am I on this
Oh,
screen?
you'll be
Damn,
here soon. You'll just have to wait,
what
fella.
do you mean? People tune in to see me.
Okay.
That's why they tune in. God damn it!
You'll be on in a second. First of all, good
He's,
evening,
he- he's
everybody.
trying to he's trying to take over. Oh, it is his show. Never mind. I'll
Is
listen.
this somebody behind this wall here? Oh, God. All right. In any case, it's June 14th. It's a Sunday night, and we usually don't go on air on Sunday nights. We did have a show, an extra show last week. Today we thought it was important enough to go on again. So, as usual, I'm here as well as my co-host David Price.
Not
And
on screen yet.
okay, you'll be here, fella. There he is, folks. David Price out of Arlington, Virginia. Now, I'm colorblind, Dave, but I assume your shirt is blue, maybe a little purple.
Blue, red, white. It's got some colors in there. Yeah, I know
Can
you're
you
color.
show our
Yeah, look. When
subscribers?
I see myself on the screen, I
You're
don't see.
there. You're on.
I'm not.
Don't.
I see. All I see is your big.
No.
No, I
No,
see.
you're looking at YouTube. Uh, that's always a little bit late. You're on.
No, I. No. You know how we listen.
Oh, you mean through Skype? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just trust me. They need
No,
this.
I want to see my picture. I'm like Donald
All right,
Trump.
all right. Look, folks, he's got a very demanding guy here, so we'll take care of this fella right now.
The star.
All right.
I'm the talent. You're just carrying the damn
I
show.
didn't have it set for that. Okay.
Oh, great. You didn't have.
All
So
right.
proper belief to the show. You've had it set that way every other time.
Yeah, I know. Well, you're going to see it now. All right. So there you go.
No, I'm not. I see your.
Aha. I have it set now, so you can see the screen
I
as you
do
see.
not see it.
Well,
I see your. I see you taking a picture in a little circle. That's what I see.
let's try this again. ECam Virtual Cam. You got to trust me. I don't know what's going wrong.
Are
Maybe I have
you
an update.
sure, Brian? What I'm asking is this: are you sure you're not just isolating me because you want to get top billing?
No, I'm not about that.
Now I can't even see you. Can you before I at least saw you?
I don't know why you can't see me, Dave. I honestly don't know why you can't
That's,
see me.
we could do the show this way.
Okay,
All right,
I just wanted to
I'm
double.
done. End the show.
Right.
You know what? We'll do one of those technical breaks in the middle. You know. No.
Right. Okay. Let me just check. Already we're getting commentary from.
I can't see it, Brian. So you got to read it to me, bub.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. You can't see any of that. I just want to make sure I know who this is. All right. Well, this is a Facebook user. I don't know who it is. It doesn't sound like Gary. It's just hey everybody.
Well, hello,
CB
everybody out there.
CB Unglesby from YouTube says hi all and says hello Dave. Evening Dave.
Good evening to everybody out there.
Human said Kevin's upset. CB, not me. Human, you are live. Believe in faith.
Okay, so we have quite an eclectic group of people out there.
And you're on. It's okay. So they can verify that you are on, which would mean I'm correct. And,
well, no, I'm not saying I'm not on. I'm just saying I can't see myself.
Yeah, and there's quite a few people, Dave. So this is a shame. But did you want to show us your?
No, I don't now.
All right. Okay.
I'll talk about
Be
it.
that way.
I really do want to start the show with is this. First of all, you'll listen to a lot of repartee between Brian and myself. But I will give Brian all the credit for this show. Really, a little history, brief history. Brian has been working on environmental concerns. For how long, Brian? Have you had the reality report?
The reality report's been around for over 2 years.
2 years. And what happened was, that's geared to environmentalism and climate change and saving the world. And people, it's all intertwined with politics, but it's not really politics. So I don't know, about a month ago, maybe not even, maybe a month ago, Brian, and we saw this stuff breaking, and Brian said, Dave, you've been on the reality report. We argue all the time on the phone, or we discuss stuff all the time on the phone, and when in person. And do you want to do this show? And I said, absolutely. And and it's funny, Brian, how things work out. Today, my wife and I were walking, as people familiar with this show know, that's what we do for exercise, and walking by a hotel. in Crystal City where we live. Um, we'll do a shout out. Maybe they'll sponsor us next week. It was a
Be nice.
Hyatt Regency. Anyway, there was a black gentleman, and I assumed his wife or his, whatever, sitting there, and he had a Do the Right Thing shirt on. And I think always in my top 10 movies of all time is Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing. I'm a big Spike Lee fan. I think it's the best movie made. This weekend, for anybody who doesn't know it, again, movies, we're not going to the movie theater. Gee. So, a lot of films are debuting other places. And Da 5 Bloods, which is Spike Lee's newest movie, debuted on Netflix. I recommend anyone who wants to understand this connection, Black America, the Vietnam War, and today, you need to see that film. Spike Lee, he's arguably the best social commentator, director today. If you like The Wire, two of the stars in there. And I will give anybody a tremendous shout out. If tonight's show or next week, they can tell me what this shout out was to The Wire in there. If you're a Wire devotee, again, I am. I think it's the greatest series ever produced, David Simon, The Wire. And two of the actors are from there. But anyway, so we got talking to this gentleman, and we spent about an hour. We started talking about it. And what was so interesting is he wanted to be a writer, which many people do. But he said, I don't know. I wrote this. Would you look at me? It was really good, Brian. It was from the heart, which is where writing should come. It was a black man who has been victimized in the system and also spent time in prison, who's now out, kind of lifted himself. No, you don't lift yourself, that lifted bootstrap stuff. He's working out pretty well. And here's what happened. There were two things very interesting. One is he and his wife drove, they live in Rome, Georgia. They drove to the Atlanta airport and jumped on a plane because he has to be here. He said, I have to be here. I have to make a stand. So I said, we have to make a stand. And they did. But in the course of that, I came back and I said, hell, if they can do that, I can do something too. So today, Brian, you haven't even seen it yet. Just finished it right before you called. We now have, of course, we have the Facebook page, correct?
Correct.
And we have this show,
Correct.
Which I can't even see myself on, but I guess
which is seen on different platforms too.
I believe YouTube, Facebook, and Periscope, right?
And also VK, which is a Russian platform.
And soon possibly negotiating with Pornhub. Is that correct?
What's Pornhub?
Never mind. All right. So we now have a blog. So I'm going to plug it next Tuesday night. Give me a little bit more time to fine tune it. But that'll be another place you can turn. Now, what is it that we want to do? I know what I want to do. But Brian, what is it that you want to do between now and November with this, we'll call it Divided We Stand in all its many forms? What is it that you want to do?
That's a good question. I'm used to a format in which we come on roughly once every week. This has nothing to do with Divided We Stand. And we don't have a show that we edit, but we actually go on live and we have some idea of what we want to do. And sometimes it has to do with some event that's happening, but more than likely it's some type of planned topic. And I was speaking with my wife tonight about this, and it just confirms what makes this channel so much different is that it's in the now. It's a current events type of thing. You don't know from 1 minute to the next what you're going to do. So there's a certain amount of chaos. On the other hand, there is a certain virtue to the show that it keeps real, and it's an exchange. It's extremely interactive because as you said, we're on these other platforms. There's constant commentary going back and forth, and you're keeping up with the news as it happens. And I think what makes this broadcast interesting, at least to my local friends and perhaps yours, is that we aren't going to MSNBC, as much as I like MSNBC, and you see the commercials and it's the plan shows. This is just normal Americans. And not only that, these are people we are friendly with, and it's got tentacles, it does outreach, but it makes it more of a local thing, even though, for example, Keith Boyd from Australia says hello. I mean, he watches our shows regularly.
You said that tonight?
Keith Keith Boyd's a big fan of ours. He's from Australia, so he might even.
Is he? Did he say that tonight?
He
Hello.
said that tonight. Yes.
Okay, Keith. I need you to do me a favor. I was just talking to my son, who is in Canberra, the capital of your country, and he's there with my daughter-in-law and my grandson and my granddaughter. Would you go give my grandson and my granddaughter each $1,000 US and just say it was for me? They'll love you for it. But Keith, welcome. Actually, I know more about your country now than I ever did because my family is there for a year.
Keith's a great guy, and he keeps in touch with me a lot. And he does post quite a bit now, not only to the Reality Report, but also to Divided We Stand. But again, to pretty much firm up the answer to your question, by the way, Keith's laughing. To firm up the answer to your question, I think that what makes this so important is because it's as if we're all on a tightrope right now. We don't know 1 minute to the next what's going to happen. You don't know if you're going to live because of the pandemic. So I think it's just so politically expedient, and from a mortal standpoint, it's important to have these type of shows. So tonight is a great example of, hey, I talked to Dave, bang, we're online, and we cover it, and we don't wait a week to see what happens. Not to say that that's something wrong with the Reality Report, but those type of channels, especially the ones that are geared more toward environmentalism and climate change, it's not always that particular day. There's this, rehashing of, hey, look, this is what's happening to the Arctic. The ice is melting more and more. We have temperatures that are very high in Siberia. I could do that every day if I wanted to, but there's too much minutia. This is actually, I think, at this moment in time, more of an existential threat because with Trump, and we're going to get to this, you really. So I hope that you could really worry, but I hope that does answer your question. What I think where this is going,
and I think so. It's Brian's show, and when I say that, it's Brian's concept, and he asked me on. And of course, as if you were sitting where I am now, you know that he's icing me out tonight because I'm literally doing this blind since he decided no, that the blind part's true. And it's interesting. Not that anybody cares out there, but I will say this: I got interested in politics in 1968, and like so many, I got interested in high school. I had a history teacher who was more a political science teacher, than a history teacher in that sense. I still remember how much he just, and he wasn't like telling us. He said, you got to find out for yourself, and this is an election. That was an election, which was Hubert Humphrey, Richard Nixon, and George Wallace. And it was pretty fascinating. 1969, I go to college. And of course, like many young college kids then, we were going to change the world. We were going to change our college. We were going to change our towns. And got into activism, etc. And spent most of my life, I always let others judge my life. I mean, I know my motives. I don't let them judge my motives, but I let them say. I would say that probably from 1968 to today, I've tried to do the best I can with what I have limited to make the world a better place. That's important to me. And it's not so much important to me because of who I am or what I am. It's important to me because I think that's part of our social commitment. When we're born, we're not born in isolation. We have a mother and a father. And when I say that, I mean biologically we have them. They may not have them, whatever, but you do. And so you have your family, and then your family expands to your community, then your community to your state to your country, and your country to the world. Now, that's pretty big pizza to make. And so you can't make that, but you do your little part. And right now, Brian, I mean, I can sum it up this way. The single thing I'm looking forward to most personally is going into an election booth and casting my vote against, not that I'm not for Joe Biden, but against what I perceive to be the most immediate threat to America and the world that I have some control directly over stopping. Now, what do I mean by that? I cast my vote. That's what I can do as one person. But, over the years, I've picked up, like everyone, a couple skills. I don't know how good I am. A lot of other people judge that. But I've been a writer. Am a writer now. I've been a speaker. Am a speaker now. It's kind of hard when you speak from your bathroom, and your wife says, "Shut up." Obviously, I'm not speaking anywhere right now. So I use this, but I use it not so much. I think there's a lot of things that this show does, Brian, and all my writing against Trump does. One is it allows me to get rid of the vile and the bile and the bad stuff I feel about Donald Trump and Donald Trump's America. So it's personally rewarding from that way. It kind of gets, after I do it, I say, okay, I can smile about it. I did something today against Donald Trump. A second thing is that I think it can be somewhat isolating, especially if you're living somewhere, and there's more Trump people around you than you, and you just don't understand. And so it gives a sense of community. And I don't think we can ever overrate what a community does for us, and in turn, what we should do for a community. And the third, I'm not vain, but I think I do have some persuasive powers. And so, tangentially, maybe I'll sway. I don't know. I don't
right,
have
because
yes, a Trump supporter or two. And then the last thing is, as I say, and on this, again, this is personal, but I do suggest everyone follow this if they want to. If they don't, who cares? Let's assume for a moment. As some people that I've talked to recently, and I'm sure you have too, we can't do anything. It's out of our hand. What? No. Even if I knew tomorrow, Brian, even if I knew tomorrow that Donald Trump was going to win the election, no matter what I did, it didn't matter. I would still have to oppose Donald Trump because I believe that Donald Trump, in word, in action, in spirit, and in soul, is the antithesis of not just what an American president should be, not just what an American should be, but any person who has ever lived, lives now, or will live in the world. I think he shows nothing to me. I had this conversation there. There's not one admirable, redeeming quality in Donald Trump. And, we could spend all show. We're not going to, how do you get elected? I don't care. Okay, I really don't. He got elected. Now our job is pretty simple. Let's unelect him. So, is it personal? Yeah, at first, I tried to play around a little bit with that. I don't like to hate. Hell, I don't, that's stupid. You hate, what do? It's like acid in your stomach, right? It eats you up. But you know what? I have no problem today saying I hate Donald Trump. I hate everything about it. I hate anyone who supports Donald Trump. No, that's a little different. But I can honestly say that I hate Donald Trump, and short of killing him, anything like that, I will do everything I can to stop him. So thank you for having me on the show. And tonight, I'd really like people to get in some questions. Even though I can't see them, we'll trust Brian, because I think sometimes we all have a tendency, I know I do, to dominate. And I don't want to do that. Brian and I are here, but we want to answer your questions. What are you thinking? What do you think is important? And I don't care if you are a Trump supporter. I love that. We'll talk about it. We might not get anywhere. So anyway, that's enough for me, Brian. Back to you.
All right, Dave, before we start talking about the events that have occurred during the weekend, I want to just add one thing to your second point, this sense of community when you join a group like this. And as much as you might think Dave has an ego or that I have any type of ego, we really actually don't, because for this kind of thing to work, I'll say he has an ego. However, I'm just saying for something like this to work, it's been my experience that everybody has to have a sense that it's theirs and that they have some skin in the game. And that's really the only way to do it. I mean, that's the real leadership. And I think this whole group thing on Facebook and to a certain extent on YouTube has been very, very helpful, as much as I'm not a fan of Mark Zuckerberg. But, you kind of felt it happening. At least I did, and Dave knows this. In 2015, I was making all kinds of comments about Trump. And in almost the first month of his presidency, I said, impeach the SOB or whatever. And I was having problems because on my personal page, my old friends were attacking me, and they're saying, why are you saying this? And it became an impossible thing because it would be tit for tat. and even if they didn't come out specifically and say something against me, I knew that their posts were kind of against me. And it went on and on and on. And then I realized, just out of understanding the interplay between my friends and myself, that it would be best if I could do it in an isolated area. And you might say, well, that's chickening out, but it really isn't. I was able to focus, and from that, you can even see now that groups are so important on Facebook, because you really do get nowhere when you have Republicans versus Democrats, because they are divided. But I think my opinion is, it's so important that we come together. I'm not talking about Republicans and Democrats, that those people who are like-minded come together and show that we are coalescing. So at the very least, the other side knows, like, you may have your NRA, but we have ours. I mean, I explained the situation to Dave over the telephone. I think it was over the telephone. Or maybe we did it on... It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. The point is that, you could have somebody with an arsenal of guns, but as Dave had said, you've got two hands. And if you got a lot of people together, and I'm not promoting civil war, I'm just saying the other side has to know that there's a price. So this whole thing about having a group page, I think, is extremely important. And it only works when, everybody gets to say something. And by the way, Dave had an idea which was, I think, fantastic. Is that if you would like to come on the show, even if it's only for 5 or 10 minutes, you get a Skype account or whatever, we'll call you up and put you on. And that way, if you don't have to say the whole show. If you want to go on for 5 minutes and just talk about one specific thing, bang, I'll call you up, and it'll make it even more exciting. So that's something we're planning in the future, and hopefully people will take part. But if that doesn't happen, we're still going to go. Right, Dave?
Yeah, I have to respond to in kind of 2 points that you made that struck me there. One is, you were talking about, on your personal page, and I think we all have that. Now, Brian's different than I am. I'm different than Brian. For whatever reason, I think I got it from my father. I want to say, people think I relish confrontation. It's not that. I'm just not afraid to get in it, not insisting that I'm right. It comes with life, okay? If you're going to be a reporter, I had people scream at me at the top of my lungs. If you're going to be a teacher, you've got students, you've got all these things I've done in my life. A musician, you suck. Okay, whatever. But so I can do that. So I understand what Brian's saying, but I kind of relish that. Again, maybe it's that Don Quixote. I don't care about changing them. I'm not going to change them. But I'm not going to let them run over anybody else either, me or anybody else. That's just the way I feel. And I know this. I've talked to a lot of people. Oh, my God, I'm losing my friends. I ask you this. Were they really your friends? You talked about Zuckerberg, and I'm really thinking, I wish he had found another word than friends. I understand why he did it. He wanted to build community. You're my friend. I mean, it was brilliant on his side. And an acquaintance isn't quite good enough. I wish he'd made up a word like, I don't know, Fadoopy or something for it. Because, friends take on a whole different connotation. I mean, I honestly don't have friends on Facebook, right? Some friends that I have are on Facebook. So that's kind of the way I look at that. The other things you said about community and, how ego and all that. Donald Trump, of course, doesn't understand one goddamn thing about leadership. He doesn't. He never will. Okay. A true leader doesn't lead by order or fiat or any of that. They lead by inspiration. Okay. Look at all the great leaders. Basically, they were teachers to an extent. They were communicators, of course. But, Donald Trump, to me, he just thinks that because he wants something, that everybody else should want it too. And the irony of that, and if anybody cares to disagree with me, I love this. He is the antithesis of community. He's going to sell Jared down the river before this election is done. He's already making rumblings of that. He's blaming Jared for his polls. I think he may love his children. I don't know how much. But it's him. So if you believe in community, you can't believe in Donald Trump. It's just that simple. You know, if your favorite color is black, your favorite color can't be white. There's some things that are mutually exclusive. The other thing is I give some advice. Sometimes you just need to turn it around, Brian, to people. And so people have asked me, a lot of people, why do you hate Trump so much? And I just look at him this way. I said, that's not the right question. The right question is, why don't you hate him? And that's all you have to say. You're done, right?
Right.
So I think, you know, but the difference is on this, yeah, we're not being chicken, Brian.
There were some things that I was going to show, and there may be one or two things that I actually.
So you can't tonight. You can't do anything. We just have to talk tonight.
But it doesn't matter, because I think that, just like I stated only about, I guess, 5 minutes ago, that we want this to be interactive, you know, and everybody should have skin in the game. So tonight, I'm going to read your questions and your comments, because a lot of this really has been generated already on the Facebook page itself.
May I say one thing about that, working in this business a little bit? If you have an open question, just leave it open. But if you really want to know, like, for example, if you want to direct something to Brian or to myself, just say Dave, I, or Brian. Like, for example, if I were asking this question, Brian, are you wearing...
There we go. I knew it.
No. I mean, I don't know what he's wearing. I can't see. Did I mention I can't even see anything on this? I'm flying now. But I really do. Look, the important thing, and again, we're both, Brian still is a teacher. I'll never get away from it. And really, we know what we know, right? Brian knows what he knows. I know what I know. But we don't know what you know. And that's where it becomes important. You know, I've never agreed with teachers who come in with a syllabus. I'm going to teach you this. No. That's not the way it works. That's not the way Jesus did it. That's not the way Socrates did it. That's not the way any of the great teachers did it. You sound out your audience. You find out what they want to know. And together you work at it. We may not be able to answer all your questions, right? That's fine. I love that. But we can come back next show and discuss it. And we want to know what you think. I mean, you know, and then look, it's not killing time. Okay, because my goal is at one point, and it'll be election night, I want to do a show. Bruce Springsteen is one of my idols, both as a person and as a musician, as a songwriter, and as a boy from Jersey. And I believe his record, I got to research this, but I believe his record for a show is 4 hours and 16 minutes. I want to do a 4 hour and 17-minute show. And if Brian doesn't want to do it, I could do it myself.
Okay.
My point is I can do it all night.
If we win, I'll be happy in November, on November 3rd, I suppose. Okay, so here is our first comment that I think we're going to start talking about. It's from Darrell Prince. Nice to see you.
Hey, Darrell.
Darrell says, the role of a president is what we should talk about. All right, Dave.
You want to go first, Brian?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, and you know, I'll go first. But let's turn it over to you now. Let's do the role reversal. Usually I go first.
That's people will say the first thing that a president has to do is protect the country and its citizens, which is true, and he hasn't done that. But I would think, since the president has to be a leader, the leader, I know it's going to sound a little bit strange, but the leader should be more of a facilitator than a leader. Now, of course, sometimes leaders have to make big decisions. You know, Truman had to decide whether to use the bomb or not, and things like that. There are times, you know, you just have to go to your heart and your mind and put those two things together and say, and this is where I'm going to go. But I think day in and day out, the intelligent president, his or her role should be to facilitate the best, as Dave would say, what's best for everybody type of thing. That's the way I see it, a fair type of leader. Now, that, you know, looking at the title of this group, Divided We Stand, would mean that, you know, I'm intransigent and I'm not going to look at the other side. I'm not saying that. So let's just clear that up. And I've said this before. The reason why I say Divided We Stand is they have the coup, and they have decided to go this way. And we're not playing any games. Dave and I are not playing any games. We're saying we are not jumping over the line. We are not meeting you anywhere, because this is what you've done. and we're going to state our values. Once you start acting rationally, that may be a different story. And then we can say, divided we fall. But right now, I think the only way we stand is this way. But again, the role of the president in most cases is for him or her, for he or she to be a facilitator and do the best possible thing. Truly, part of that is protecting the people. And there are other things too. But I despise a president like Trump who basically is, number one, either only for himself or for a party that's only for itself. And this is why we have the problems we have, and we may not get out of them. Okay, Dave, what do you think the role of the president is?
I kind of touched on it a little bit before. I don't know if Darryl caught that. First of all, they talk about leadership styles, right? And you have this and you have that. And, you could look and see what the good leaders do. But I think the role of a leader, whether it's a Cub Scout pack leader, a teacher is a form of leader, right? A president. I think you try to bring out the best in the people that you're leading. And if you do that, it makes your leadership job so much better. Now, a couple of things that I think Trump was doomed for a lot of reasons, but I'm not going to. Let me give you an example. It sounds like I'm egotistical, but I'm not. I have to talk. I only have my life, right, and what I've read to do that. In a galaxy far, far away, a long time ago, I put together a program in Bridgeton, and those of you, a number of you, could be from Bridgeton tonight. But if you're not there, very racially diverse community. And since Owens, Illinois, at one point the largest glass facility in the world was located in Bridgeton, has been just on a downward spiral of poverty. Okay, so obviously got a lot of federal work. And actually, Ronald Reagan was president. I forget the year, so it was during there. And I put together this program. And what I did was I had to go back and forth. So a leader has to do that between warring parties. And they literally were warring parties. The government did not want to fund the education part. The education part wanted nothing to do with the government. Government's back in there. So that's part of what a leader does, right? Move. So you get that. And then I did the simplest thing you could do. And it was great. It was like I had all the first picks. I was able to choose the teachers that I wanted to work with me. And what I did, I was still smoking then. Cigarettes. I'd given up the other stuff. But I literally could go in my office and put my feet up and smoke and not really have to do much, except once in a while, something would happen because you've got good people. Now, that's the irony. One of the ironies of Trump is, remember, and Brian, I don't know if I'm getting the right words. I hire only the best people. He said something.
Right. He said that many times. Yes.
Yeah. And, well, if you got the best people, where the hell are they now? What were you lying then? Are you lying now? Jeff Sessions was the best, but now because he didn't do what you want, you're attacking him. And so that's not what a leader does. The inspiration part is true. I think the leader, one of the toughest things is to look into the future and try to lead the group into the future. I mean, so many people, you can lead right now, right? Right now, there's moments for that. Okay, don't get me wrong. But I'm saying in general, the people and the country are going to outlive your presidency. Is that correct? I mean, it makes sense, right? Unless you die, or you lose your country.
Yes.
So it's that balance in personal life. Okay, for somebody, I got $100. Do I spend it tonight? Do I spend half of it? Do I save it for next time? What's the best use of that? Now, I'm always stunned. I'm always stunned when people can compare Barack Obama and Donald Trump and come up with this comparison.
And by the way, that's going to be our next comment about that. Okay.
Well, I want to say this. This is just what blows my mind. I mean, what else do I say? That they look at Barack Obama as the great divider and Donald Trump as a unifier. Well, if you believe that, you're fucking insane. And here's why. I don't know that you're fucking racist. I'll say that right up front because we got to deal with racism. The reason you didn't want to see Barack Obama as the great uniter is he was a black man and treated like black men and women are for 401 years, and that's not well by white-dominated society. And he could look beyond that and deal with you and try to do what was best for you. And at the same time, do what was best for other people who weren't like you. Donald Trump, I don't know how to say this any simpler than Donald Trump is for himself, number one, which is the antithesis of being a leader. But secondly, he only cares about people that look like himself or he can get something out of himself. Now, I saw that. Trump people, God, are they nuts? I saw a thing the other day out there. They were saying, it's always making fun of blacks for Trump, right? They have a T-shirt. Every single person wearing that was white. Now, what the hell is up with that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what's that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can wear a Black Lives Matter because I believe in it,
mm-hmm.
and I can. But blacks for Trump and you're white? So the last thing I think that a president needs to do, there's two more. So let me do them in this order. One is they have to be balanced two ways. The first way you have to balance is you have to have an intellect, and that means being well-read and educated. Look, Trump's people don't like education. You know why? Because they ain't got it. They could have had it. I would go out and teach them.
They don't have it, and that's that.
I'll teach them. I mean, I'm not elitist. I'm just telling them, you'll be better for you. You can think. Whether it's you want to think about religion, whatever you want to think, you can think. So you need, but you also, of course, have to look at the other things, like you mentioned, defend your country. How do you balance all these competing interests? I laughed about this. I bring it up a lot because it is probably my longest favorite movie, The Wizard of Oz. It was also one of my mother's favorites, and I've watched it 462 billion times or whatever. But I think, if you look at that, remember the wizard? He wasn't a very good leader, right? But he had the whole country buffaloed. Sound like anybody we know? Yet, when it came time, the wizard who did have, once he was exposed, he wasn't like Trump and will run off screaming and hollering and, screaming. He said, okay, I'm going to leave. I'm going back to Kansas. Yes, I'm a humbug, if you remember that. And who did he put in charge? He put the Scarecrow in charge. And I find that interesting. But he said, Scarecrow, here's something else. Scarecrow, of course, representing intelligence, right? And brain. If I only had a brain. If Trump only had a brain. But the Scarecrow was so much like many of us, he didn't think he had a brain, and he had one all the time, right? But he said, take the lion's courage and let him, help you with that. And take the tin man's heart. So to me, the perfect leader combines heart, intelligence, and courage. And this is one of my definitions for humankind. So the president has to do this even better. He knows what's good and seeks it, no matter what the cost. And he knows, or she knows, what's bad, and you avoid it. But I'll take it a step further. You want not the personal good for you, right? Remember, you want what's best for the most people. And you don't want to put in what's bad for the most people. And if you can do it, you want to try to have a country where nothing is bad. I was talking today.
Dave, I was wondering, can I just because I think I don't want to lose this comment. This is from Kyle, and it does relate to what you not just said, but said a little bit, and I don't want to forget this.
But
it will relate. Okay, Kyle, up a former student at Bridgeton High School.
I've got a number of those too.
And Mark, I believe, was my student my first year at Bridgeton. Kyle, if you remember, say hello.
Is there any Kyles? I like Kyle.
Kyle, so Kyle had a great question. I think we've touched on this before, Dave, but
go ahead.
He asks us, he said, someone commented on my post that Obama was a horrible president. He took the economy into the crapper, and Trump is bringing it back out. My question is, he says, my question is, why do you think people who are on different sides see the same issue two totally different ways? Okay, Dave, you want to go first?
Address that. Kyle, I've struggled with it. I understand. Here's the best I can come up with. All right. Now, I hope we don't have any really brilliant physicists out there. But, we talk about what is reality. Okay. This is a Dave Price definition of reality. There's one reality. One. I'm not in multiple universes right now. I'm not in the past. I'm not in the future. I'm here. But the way I see reality might not be the way anyone else who's sitting next to me sees reality, right? Now, some of that is perspective. Anybody wants to try this experiment tonight, go to any room, look at the wall ahead of you, just the wall ahead of you. You see something, turn, do a counterclockwise, and look at all four walls. You're going to see something different, right? I mean, same room. And that's kind of the world is kind of that way. Now, what happens is I would suggest that that's okay up to a point. Up to a point. Let me give you where I think it's okay. I think it is fine for anyone who's ever lived, is living now, or will live to choose how they want to do what we call spiritual living. I know what I do. They're fine. And that point when they cross is when they want to bring their religious living into other people's lives, right? And so it's the same thing here. Now, then there's also a problem if your reality is not grounded in fact. That's called crazy, okay? That is a technical term of being insane. Well, to say that Barack Obama tanked the economy and to say that Donald Trump has brought it back, you can't be more insane than that. Now, did Barack Obama bring the economy back for every single person? No. Can you argue maybe the auto dealers and some other or not auto manufacturers, big companies shouldn't have had that's what he did something. Now, I would ask this of anybody, and Kyle, you can ask it of the people asking this. Is the economy better for you, meaning that person today? And they may say yes. But then you have to ask, are you that selfish? And can't you see that it's not good? Unemployment. And it gets so technical, it sounds like everybody's lying. And this was a mistake, but it was a horrible mistake. If you read those job figures from 2 weeks ago now, I guess, right? 2 weeks ago? They were completely erroneous. Not because Trump fixed them or stacked them. They made a miscalculation that took them off by 5 points. So when they said, almost 6 actually, I guess it was 6 really. When they said drop from 14.3 to 30, it was never 14.3, it was 20.3. So now it's 19.3. Well, those numbers mean something. I mean, numbers are pretty factual. Okay. I mean, I could play the old argument that, numbers. No. We've all kind of technically agreed that 3 is 3 and 3 is more than 2 and it's less than 4. I mean, that's how we have to operate in this world. Whether it's true or not, I don't care. But we have to operate that way. So I think that's an excellent question. And the main reason I'm going to come back, I mean, I believe this. If you think that Barack Obama was a worse president than Donald Trump, then I think you might as well go out, if you don't have one now, and get yourself a white sheet and get yourself a conical hat, because you are somewhere on the scale of prejudice against black to a full-out racist.
Okay, thank you, Dave. I'm going to give Kyle my short version because I know that last week I went into determinism. But basically, Kyle, my feeling is that the world is deterministic, meaning that our past experiences and even the past experience of our descendants affect the present. And it's very hard to move from that. So, obviously, as an example, we have, for example, if you have parents who are right-wing Republicans, I'm not saying every child of those parents are going to be conservative, but in general, those type of influences will affect people. Now, there are times when that doesn't happen. Example, Ronald Reagan, conservative. Now, we know he was a Democrat during World War II, but he was a conservative, and so was Nancy Reagan. But Ron Reagan Jr. was able to break away from that. Now, Ron Reagan Jr. isn't like me. He's an atheist. So what is it about Ronald Reagan Jr., Ron Jr., that can really answer your question? And it's my opinion that when you have this one event, and two people from different sides of the spectrum think differently about it. Like, for example, what happened yesterday or Friday night in Atlanta. There are going to be people who are going to say, the cop shot him, didn't have to do it. And then they're going to have some really right-wing things as the guy was out of control. He should have been shot. The cop is trying to protect him. So, I'm not having a discussion about that. I'm just saying that you're going to have two different views. And when you have somebody like, say, Ron Reagan Jr., because he uses logic, he can jump out of that, and basically it's like saying, you're 6 years old and your dad says something racist, and you just feel it's wrong. Now, my father didn't, by the way, so I don't. This is not speaking from personal experience, and that's the straight out truth. It's not from personal experience, but some people, when they're 5 or they're 6, they may cringe when their parent says something, and they don't even know why it's right or wrong. You just know something's wrong with you. It's like a mom says, why don't you put some butter on that burn? It'll heal it, or something like that. You just kind of know that it's wrong, but some people don't, Kyle. And I think I personally think that that's the problem. You have to have, a well-rounded education. You're not just getting your education from your parents, and unfortunately, it happens a lot on both sides of the political spectrum. But you have to have a well-rounded education, a liberal education, in my opinion, the environment you're within, and that can help you make the decision and hopefully make the right decision. So again, these people generally probably are fixed. Again, they have that big past that doesn't let them jump out of it. And, they're willing to vote for Trump simply because, he says the Democrats are going to raise your taxes. Oh, shit, they're going to raise my taxes, or they're going to take away my guns. That in itself is enough for them to vote that way or to think that way,
Brian, I want to jump in here just for a second with a real thing. I've been spending a lot of time thinking about the difference between liberals and conservatives. I really choose, words mean something. And later on, if we get to it, if not tonight, Tuesday, remember, Brian, I want to talk a little bit about this defund the police movement. Not necessarily tonight. Let's leave that for Tuesday. But it'll be this words matter. Okay. So I prefer to use the term. I think right now in America there are 4 groups of people politically. We'll deal with them. One could really, they just don't care, right? Just leave me alone. I don't want to be bothered. I'm not going to vote. It doesn't really affect me, etc. I disagree with them, but they have the right to do that, right? I think there's always been conservatives. And basically now they are aligned in 2020 with the Republican Party. In fact, they're known as the Conservative Party. Now, what I find interesting is, and I do want to talk about this at some length tonight if we have time, about history and how that affects what we think. And you kind of brought that up. Your side is determinism, mine is more past history. But you're talking about that with parental history, which is kind of the same thing. So conservatives, okay, got that. I put myself in the liberal category. I put myself there proudly. I laugh. I mean, I play with words all the time. That's what I do. I'm a teacher and a writer. Conserve, preserve, keep, liberal, liberate, free. They come from those roots. That's kind of what they mean, right? A lot of that has how you feel about authority. Okay, most conservatives are very accepting of authority. The extreme ones want to be the authority, all right, but they're accepting of it. The same as, there's good and bad, good Christians, bad Christians. And I would say part of that is whose authority you accept. If you accept Jesus Christ's authority and follow his words, damn it, you're living a good life. I mean, not a good life all the way around. But if you listen to, the Reverend who's diddling 500 women on the side and buying them airplanes and shit, wrong side again. So you've got it even within groups. So now, here's the 4th group. Trumpsters. They're not conservatives. They're not liberals. Of course they're not liberals. They're not Democrats, but they're not the Republicans either. Mitt Romney is a Republican, has been a Republican, was born a Republican, and will die a Republican. He's not supporting Donald Trump. George will, in my estimation, the only thing we can agree on, if we really sat down philosophically or politically, would be we both like baseball. George Will is brilliant. He's articulate. He's well thought out. I would read anything he wrote. He is the ultimate, what I would consider to be conservative. He is not, he's taken a step further. He said, don't vote for Donald Trump, but don't vote for anybody who's going to vote with Donald Trump when they get elected. So taking that away, right? And what does it leave? It really does leave this, ladies and gentlemen. I'd love to tell you differently. No, I wouldn't. I don't care. If you are voting for Donald Trump, you are probably, I'd almost narrow it to two categories. There's a third, but tonight, just for sake of argument, I'm going to do it to two. You are either a hater or fearful, and they're the same thing. And Donald Trump hates or will do away with the group that you fear. Or the second reason is that, like Donald Trump, you only care about yourself. Mm-hmm. So what I like, and think about that, the Trumpsters are pretty much a community of their own. Why, if you're Republican and they come out, why the fuck would you trash Mitt Romney for standing up? Because he came out against your boy Donald Trump. They are no better than the poor people at Jonestown who took the Kool-Aid.
Right.
They are led by a maniac, and they've bought on, and they've done it.
A demagogue he is, for sure.
Oh, he's not even a good demagogue. But yes, that's part of it. Okay. He's nothing. He's a weak-willed. Look, he's the bully in the schoolyard who, if you stand up to him, he goes away and whines and whimpers. Give me one time when he stood up to anybody.
Right.
Yeah, the military. That's another whole concept.
Okay, we're getting a lot of comments, Dave, so I'm going to keep us moving a little bit, okay?
I'm done. I just want to say that because
okay.
I wanted to answer that.
We're going to keep here. Okay, next question is, my question is, can society change local and global? So I guess what he or she is saying is, can this change us globally? And
let me do it real quickly.
Sure.
In order to change anything, you have to first change yourself. That's difficult, yes, but you can do it.
Yes.
Stop.
You don't change yourself from within.
Jesus Christ, Brian, that doesn't even apply to anything. We're talking about the change itself. I'm saying changing yourself is difficult. Okay.
It takes a lot of things from the outside to change you.
I'm not talking about
Okay, let's just stay with that because we don't get it. We're getting in over minutia. But
into your philosophy, I don't give a shit about your philosophy. All right, now here we go. So changing yourself is hard. Trying to change someone else is more difficult than changing yourself because now you've got to deal with that. Trying to change multiple people is even harder. Trying to change your community, harder. State, harder. Region, harder. Country, harder. World. What I tell people who ask that question, change yourself first. Make sure you're right. Always question yourself. And then spend the rest of your life, when you can, it gives meaning. If you see others that you think your change would help them, then work on it. The other thing, Brian, and I find this all the time, maybe it's because I'm 68 and I'm only living to be 112, so I'm past my halfway expectancy. I don't expect to be successful that much with this. I really don't. Do I want Donald Trump to lose the election? Yes. Do I want him to lose by the biggest margin ever? That won't happen, but a big margin. Do I want him to know that a woman was involved in that? Because Joe Biden will have a woman there. Do I want? Yes, I want all of that. But that's not. I mean, I'm doing it for that, but I have to do it. I'm not saying morally courageous. I mean, I'm not in Sweden in 1941 standing up and letting the Nazis shoot me. I would hope I would do that. I wouldn't know what I would do. But I think sometimes we're so concerned about making change or making it better that we just get discouraged and we don't try. That's my answer.
Okay. That can go about this a lot of different ways, but let's take it a simple way first. We know, for example, marketers will try to, try to influence decision making out there. Now, part of it means you have to look and see what the people actually want and look at their needs, and then you cater after that to that specific product and try to make them match. That's the whole marketing
Right.
concept. I don't know that that actually changes anybody, but at least it identifies the need. And once you identify the need, then you solve it. That's how modern marketing works. Now, whether you can actually change people into wanting something else, that depends. So, for example, I think for a while, a lot of the automobile manufacturers saw the writing on the wall. We needed to have higher mileage in our automobiles, but people were still buying the SUVs. And to this day, people are buying SUVs, so much so that, every time I try to park my car at work or I'm at the grocery store, I can't even pull out of the goddamn lot because, you have
also, Brian,
these beast machines next to you.
I think you should acknowledge you're a hellaciously bad driver, but go ahead.
No, I've never had one ticket in my life, but it was well, I won't even go into it, okay? But anyway, and I do disagree with Dave, and Dave, you've made your point, but my point has always been you do not change yourself. Things around you change you, and through those experiences, you change. So if you live in an isolated area and you've learned something, if you live in the middle of Montana, it'll be very unlikely that you'll politically change until you're around other people. Be like the person who, marries somebody out of his or her faith or out of their race. That helps them learn. Or when you have neighbors who look different than you, it's a good thing because they can, open you up to new vistas that you're not used to seeing. And I think that you have to have that. Now, there's always change. For example, we know that, when the telephone was invented, the telegraph even, whatever it is, that makes these quantum leaps and change. And that happens through a few individuals. But if you're talking about societal changes where they have a completely different view, I think that you might be alluding to what's happening right now with the protests and the public perception about police and how they treat African Americans.
Can I deal with
Hold on, you're blocking your speaker there, fella. Can you?
Okay. Well, I can't see myself, remember?
No, but you're blocking your speaker.
I'm not blocking it now.
Now you're good. Okay.
Block it. So, here's what we got. I'm playing with this in my head, and I'm not sure. So if anybody wants to give me some sense of direction on this. I always preface remarks when I'm talking about groups which I don't belong to. I don't necessarily have a right to say this, but that's not going to stop me from saying it. Here's what I think, why, Brian, and we've talked about this a lot, why this time may be different. No, you got to say may. We're not out of it yet. It may be different. With the environment the way it is in the terrible shape it's in, with the economy in the terrible shape it's in, with young people spending fortunes with no guarantee of the job, right? With no loyalty if there ever was. And now a virus that can kill you. I think a lot of white people are understanding or discovering for the first time in their lives what it's like to be black, or what it's like to be Mexican, or what it's like to be poor, or what it's like to be these things that minorities, people, and I think sometimes when we talk about minorities, we can throw it all there. There's more straight than gay people. Okay, that's just the way it is. So if you're gay, you're in a minority. So you know what it's like to live under a situation where the laws aren't really necessarily geared for you. Again, any gay person now, Trump's come out. When he did the trans thing, he's on a roll now. So if you're a gay person, I think long and hard about voting for Donald Trump. But I think that's something I really see that. There's something different about this one. Now, yes, I play all those games, 1968, 74. I talk about them. I write about them. But I just sense something different. And I think for maybe the first time in my lifetime, younger people, white, black, green, yellow, brown, even if someone out there has the same fake orange tan that Donald Trump does, they realize, hey, my life's not going to be much better than a black, whatever they kind of, whatever you said before, and you're going to be con yourself. So actually, in a way, I'm kind of glad for Donald Trump. I'm sorry that everybody had to suffer. And certainly he did not bring on the coronavirus. And so you could talk about, he didn't bring on racism. But the son of a bitch, it's not just that he did the wrong things. Not that he just didn't do anything or didn't do the right things. He did the wrong things. Why do you think, if you have to blame one single person, and I do, and this you can do, why is America leading in deaths? And I know you can play the percentage of this country and all, because Donald Trump did not do his job as president.
Right.
He pushed it off to other people and then took the science out of it because he doesn't believe in science, because science threatens his authority. Okay? Did he cause racism? Absolutely not. It's been with us. As I say, it predated our country.
Right.
But you tell me this is any healing. He's the president of the United States. Brian, I'm going to do this thing I do all the time. Just answer yes or no. He's the president of the United States, Brian, yes?
Yes.
Okay. As the president of the United States, he could choose to make a speech anywhere, and they would probably let him make it. Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So he's going to come back out, not, Brian, and this is not fact. This is just subjection. He needs that adoration, and he can't get it. So he needs to go out in public. And I know you and I talked about that, so I'm going to give you the sign off, I'm not going to talk about I sign off all responsibility thing. I'm not going to pick up that. But he could have gone anywhere, right? Now, he chooses the place. He chooses the date. So what place does he choose? He chooses Tulsa, Oklahoma, where the most black people were killed in a single incident anywhere on U.S. soil. It's one of the things the history books don't tell us about. And I'm sorry, black history, this history, that history. We need to know it all. But how many people, Brian, and this is where I attack history, how many people know Kent State? Virtually everybody, right? I mean, not everybody now. But
anybody from our generation would know.
You do realize Jackson State. Are you familiar with Jackson State?
No.
You're not. And you are one of the most intelligent, well-read men. I think it was a week after or 2 weeks after, exact same thing happened in an all-black college. Same exact thing. 2 people are gunned down. You never hear about it, right?
Which state? Mississippi?
Jackson State, Mississippi. Yep.
Okay.
Now, I grew up in Seabrook Village, which was a multi-ethnic village with the predominantly being Japanese. Growing up in that village and attending school there, I didn't know anything about Japanese internment until I got to college. Okay? So it doesn't just have to be black, is what I'm saying. Tulsa is a stain, and he chooses there. But it's worse. How can you make it worse, you say? Well, it is. He picks Juneteenth. Now, granted, Juneteenth is kind of the day that black Americans celebrate the emancipation or their freedom, right? Of what they have of it. Now, you tell me there's only 2 reasons that you could do that. One is you are a racist, and I believe Donald Trump is. But even if he's not, he chose it. Dog whistles, you're supposed to. He told it deliberately. He chose it deliberately. And it gets worse, Brian. He doesn't have the courage of his convictions when called on it. He moves it to the next day. My black friends.
Right. Well, that was ridiculous.
Donald Trump.
Moving it a day later is really not going to change anything.
No.
But let me ask you this, Dave.
Donnie, if you're listening, it proves you're a chicken shit. That's what it proves. Now,
I mean, I'm not so sure that he actually knew about Tulsa.
Well, you should. Damn it,
no, I understand that. There's a lot of things that shoulda, coulda, woulda. Stephen Miller knew.
You should reject everything that hate monger Stephen Miller, little weasel.
Stephen Miller knew and probably told him, and there you go.
Miller may be setting him up. Maybe he really likes. I don't know. Right. But now it gets even worse. You say, well, how can it get worse? He only did it half right. you say, I made a mistake. That's a good lie if you say that. I didn't know. So we're not going to hold it in Tulsa, and we're not going to hold it on Juneteenth. So he's still sending his goddamn whistle. And it's just like his upside down Bible thing. He's an optical fool. And anybody who follows him is as foolish as believing.
But doesn't he see that as a blueprint, Dave? It worked for him in 2016. Why wouldn't it work again?
Can I address that? I actually have an answer for that, and I'll keep it as simple as I can. Do you know why he won? So there are many reasons why he won, but there's two. He won because America wanted an outsider. They were, and so many of them, they were fed up with the way government was. Here comes a guy. He was, okay, we're going to vote for him. He no longer has that advantage, Brian. He's the insider now.
Okay. We're going to move on here because we have so many comments just flying in here.
I'll stay up all night. I don't care.
Now, we have this is nice because now we're getting our Periscope people coming in. And this is, I don't know the person, but thank you from Periscope. Is G. Lergel. He comes up with an interesting question, I think, that we've kind of answered in our own way in the last couple of shows, Dave. But he says, while lobbyists control America, why can you trust anybody? And this is, I think, and I'm just going to speak for myself and try to make it quick to our Periscope viewers, that Dave and I discussed this because there are a lot of people on the left who will not vote for Trump. They'll only vote for Bernie because they believe in a lot of conspiracies and that Biden and Trump are controlled by the same interests. And I think when that kind of comment or question comes up, it's all to the degree. I mean, sure, there are lobbyists, but think about it. This is just my point. If that were true, that we're simply controlled by the lobbyists, why wouldn't they just have an auction and they'd say, okay, well, we're going to go to the highest bidder. And that doesn't happen. So, for example, Rachel Maddow has a great show. She is the most popular at that hour in cable television on that network, MSNBC. And she makes $7 or $9 million a year. I don't know what it is. And sure, she does have advertisers, but she doesn't have to take that advertiser. They can go to the next one and to the next one and the next one. Okay? And it is a problem right now for Carl Tuckerson. I keep wanting to say Tucker Fredrickson. Shows my age. But Tucker Carlson, he can't find anybody.
Tuckerson was. I wasn't hit with him.
See, you still remember he played for the New York Giants football team. But
I know.
Getting back to the point is that, again, I would think you would have an auction if it was that important. Because don't forget, there are lobbyists like George Soros and there are lobbyists like the Koch brothers. So, even Cory Booker, as much as people say he's for the pharmaceuticals and that he's bought off by the lobbyists, he went against the pharmaceutical companies, not recently, last year or 2 years ago. So I don't think that one really holds. I think there's this general perception
I'm going to disagree
on the left that's like on the right. They think that everybody is, controlled like a marionette. And I don't think that's entirely true. Dave?
Here's how I view it, okay? I hear that all the time. And you're right. We live in a capitalist system. Capitalist systems work on money. Politics is no different. We had a Supreme Court, one of the most hideous decisions since the Dred Scott decision, I think, for America, was equating money with a vote. We should be doing everything to keep money out of politics. And I don't know if we could ever be successful. Okay. So I tell people like that, yeah, I agree with you. But there's still always a difference, right? And Brian, you alluded to that. I think George Soros' heart is better than the Koch brothers' hearts, if they have one. I think the people who bought and sold, if that's how you want to view it, Joe Biden is still a better person, and they're better people than the people who bought and sold Trump. Look, politics is not about ideologies. It's not. It's about practicalities. I would say to every young left winger tonight, and I was one once, my thing is, if you want to change, right, is it easier to change, unless you're an anarchist, a broken system or one that's getting better? And right. I think my argument would be, as you get better, it's easier to change. And I think we're seeing that now. If you're a Bernie Sanders guy, Bernie has a lot of bargaining power with Joe Biden right now.
Absolutely.
Right? Now, will he use it? No. And there was a great article today in the Post that Bernie now has made his peace. He's made his peace that he's not going to be president. And he realizes now that he leads a movement. And he does. He's a leader of a movement. And a leader of a movement, he might be in better position to get what he wants done than he would be as president. See, people overrate the president. The president is the single most powerful person in the United States. But you know who's more powerful, Brian? 5 Supreme Court justices together. You know who's more powerful, Brian? A Senate if it's the opposite party. You know, and so you know, I go back to.
Although Trump is trying to change that by simply putting himself in all these different positions. Bill Barr is a projection of Donald Trump.
Oh, that's true, bro.
Okay.
But my thing is about money. We need to get it out. I don't know how we go about doing that. But even when it's there now, what I look at, and I'm just saying I look at it, I'm interested in, I guess the best way to describe it is this. If you're in politics, there's only one thing that you have to do. You have to win. You have to win.
And by the way, you know, not all rich people are good and not all poor people are a picnic. You know what I mean? And so you can't just strike somebody out because they have an agenda.
Okay, let me be brutally frank. There's a homeless guy here outside. We struck up a friendship. We always have a laughing relationship. Sometimes I'll give him a little money. Sometimes I don't. But tomorrow, if I got to pick, if I'm running for office and Jeff Bezos will support me or George will support me, but they won't, you know, if I take George, Jeff won't. And if I take Jeff, George won't. I'm going to take Jeff every time if my goal is to win, right? As long as.
Right. And that's why was Klobuchar attacking Buttigieg? Because he had a couple of people who were wealthy.
Right.
There.
Let me just finish that point. Because you know what? If I go with George and I get no money, I'm not going to win. But if I go with Jeff and get his money, I can still help George. So I'm not going to kiss Jeff. You know, if Jeff tells me once I'm in president or whatever the office is, no, I can deal with you and I can help you. You know, I'll do the right things for Amazon, but I'm going over here. And one of the, you know, I'm going to do some right things for George. So I think, you know, nobody's ever going to change my mind on this. No matter how good you are. I don't think. I've been studying this since 1968, as I said. Politics is 2 things. It's winning, but it's what lines are you willing to cross in order to win.
Right.
Then once you get in, it's the art of compromising if you're going to want to govern, because nobody is going to agree with everything you say, if whether you're the president or the party or whatever. So again, I would look at this and say, okay, every money controls it. It's too big. Which guy is better? Which woman is better? Do I want whatever? You know, do I want a 6'4" president or a 5'7"? I mean, there's always some way, and I don't mean hold your nose and vote. I don't mean that. One candidate. There's never been a race in the United States of America, I don't think, where 2 equal candidates have run. Right. Now you might be wrong in thinking your candidate is better, or the other, you know, but that's it. And you just do that. That's otherwise you get nowhere. And I do want to address that.
There was also, I think, some relationship to the question that Kyle had, and I think it just shows you. You know, I said it works both ways when you have this, as you say, history, but I say the past, which is really the history. Determinism. It can affect people on the left too. So if you have this idea that, you know, your parents or your close friends have said, you know, the Illuminati's there and there's, you know, a conspiracy, well, it can be the same type of agenda you have against lobbyists, because not all lobbyists are bad. I think we have a joke question here, but it says, where do you stand on the Oxford comma, which I'm guessing is like that one before the and.
Whoa.
I always put a comma before the and. That's a question for both of us.
Whoa. You talk about weird. Can I go weird for a moment, Brian?
Well, you're going to go to Oxford?
No.
Okay.
I was in one of many things I do. I'm part of almost a worldwide team that we're looking at life in the pandemic, right, and writing about it or taking pictures about it. We have artists, we have playwrights about it, movies about it. Brian, you contribute your thoughts on video. And so the other day, I was interviewing. I limit my world to the 3 communities that are here. I think that's more interesting. I mean, I could go into Washington, D.C., but they got enough people in there. And I was interviewing this very nice, very, very nice person for a story that I'm doing. She just started her business in 2019. It's called Agents in Change, and she's a helper. She wants to help women with their self-image and this kind of thing. And come to find out, she'd been a 4-year English teacher, graduate of Duke, which wasn't what she really, what she wasn't there for. And we got into a great discussion we both agreed on the Oxford comma. And her name, for anybody who's out there, is Rhoda Wheeler. So I don't think Rhoda's listening tonight. If it is, that's
I don't know
where
who said that. I just saw the question here.
Now, for those who don't know, let me do a quick thing about the Oxford comma. The United States of America is wrong. England is right on this one particular incident. The Oxford comma comes from Oxford University in England. They say this. Now, let me just do the simplest one I can. In America, it is supposedly correct to say this, and I'll do it grammatically at the end. I like rice, comma, peas, and carrots. In England, you would write it, I like rice, comma, peas, comma, and carrots. Correct. Meaning that I like rice, I like peas, and I like carrots. In America, if you leave off that down comma, you're changing the meaning altogether.
Right.
The point of punctuation is to make clarity. It's not about some witch running around, making up rules. So if you say the American way, what it means is, without that comma, I like rice and then peas and carrots together. But I don't necessarily like peas separately, and I don't necessarily like carrots separately. So if you don't put in the comma, that may be true. But use it that way. So there's my quick grammar lesson.
And
tonight.
Dave and I are in agreement on that. That was, it just looks right. It's all a feel to me.
No, Brian, I'm going to take it a step further than that. I'm not disagreeing with you. Mm-hmm. It's about communicating what you want to communicate. Mm-hmm. And if you want people to know that you like peas and carrots together, you leave off the damn comma.
Right.
If you say that you like them all, separately, I like rice and I like peas and I like carrots. Or if you only like rice and peas and carrots together, then you have no damn commas.
Right.
Okay, that's enough.
Okay, so our friend Human from YouTube has quite a few quick comments. We might be able to just say yes or no on this, I think, perhaps.
Let's do it. We haven't done that. We're going to limit ourselves.
Okay. He says, eliminating environmental regulations helps corporations' bottom line. I say true. Yes.
Absolutely yes.
All right. So we're on the same street on that.
You said yes or no. Don't.
Yes, of course.
Goddamn street or not.
Yes.
All we're saying is yes or no.
All right. Next, he says, giving tax breaks to corporation helps the 1%.
Yes.
Yes. In one short word, yes.
No!
Okay. He knows I can't help myself. I'm trying, Dave. All right. Next, the Constitution was designed for the 1% and still does. You're first, Dave.
Let me do it this way. I'm not going to qualify it. So I'm going to say yes, but I would qualify the fact that it was written by and for what in those days was considered the 1%. Yes.
I have to choose one or the other. Oh, God.
Choose one. No explanation more than I gave.
No. Next one.
Go.
Well, that was not easy. Okay. There were no rules for pollution before the 1970s. Dave?
I'm too ignorant to do that. So I'm going to say no because the EPA was created by Donald Trump, but that's probably not the case. So I would do a pass on that, not because I don't want to make a decision. I don't want to say yes or no because I'm not qualified to say that.
I would have to say, no, that's not true, at least for cities, because you'd have a big problem. But no, I would say no. I know what you're saying, Human, but I would not go as far as to say there were no rules. But if
more yes nos, I mean that's the longest yes or no.
All right, okay, you know what? We've switched roles.
37 words.
Okay.
No, 1 word, go.
In this case, I became you, Dave, and I spoke too long. But I should have said no.
Jesus, you're still doing it.
Okay. He's still mad at me for not ending the show exactly when I said I was going to end it last time. Kyle says, thank you for both of your words. Human, another yes, no. Labor and extraction of natural resources is best profit for the buck.
Say again.
Labor, the workers, and extraction of natural resources is the best profit for the buck. Let's just say for the rich. Labor, they're going to make your money on labor and on
human.
sources.
I'm not inside. This is why you can't. Not that you can't do this, but we need to be face to face, because it's not that your question is not clear. It's that I don't understand your question. So the fault would be with me. So again, I would answer it if it's rephrased, or if I could talk to you or figure out what it is.
Well, let me ask you this, Dave, and I think
you might
this
know.
answers half of it in a yes, no.
I don't have the questions in front of me. Go ahead.
Okay. True or false? A business generally makes profits two ways. Okay? One, on the worker, and two, on the profit from the product. They can make it two ways. True or false? On the worker and on the product.
There's other ways they could do it, but since they're both involved, I would say true.
Okay, so right there, I think he was talking about at least that part of it, and just taking natural resources is the easiest thing to do. You just grab it and then you sell it, and it's not even really, if you think about it philosophically, Dave, this is kind of a cool thing to go off on a tangent, but all of a sudden, I don't know, Shell Oil will like say, okay, well, we're going to take this area of the Gulf of Mexico and we're just going to take this shit called oil and we're going to make money off it. And you say to yourself, hold it, how can we just allow this company to purchase this area, which is, they did not inherit the earth per se, and then they're going to make profit on it. They're just going to take it. It's really a Marxist type, pretty much I agree with. I mean, it seems so unfair. You can have your opinion about it, but it's
I'm going to play for all your environmental.
So human, I say yes.
Real quickly, I'm going to play a little yes, no with you too. Okay, Brian, is, as far as we know, is wind finite or infinite? As far as we know, wind.
It's a weird question. Finite or infinite?
Does wind stop, or will it be there forever as far as we know?
Wind will stop. Yes.
Come back tomorrow. I'm talking about...
in general, as long as we have an atmosphere, yes.
Die out for 1,000 years tomorrow.
Right. We're yes. It will continue for now.
Barring cataclysm, is the sun going to be around for a while?
Yeah, you're good for 4 billion more years.
So I'm just going to use those. We could go on for others.
Okay.
Environmentally, it makes no sense to me. Forget about pollution. Forget about anything else. I want to run the world forever. Not me personally, but I see the world run forever. Why wouldn't you make the shift? There is no such thing as finite resources like oil. There's only so many dead dinosaurs. So all you have to say is, if you're thinking about the future, and I'm not talking about saving mankind or humankind, I'm just talking about having a future, you're going to have to find alternative sources of energy and other resources. Why not do it now? So that to me, it's not about, I love to save the world. To me, it's just stupid. It means, again, like Donald Trump, you're saying, I don't give. Okay, what you're saying, if you use that kind of capital, I really don't care, because I'm going to be okay. I'll be dead when we run out of this, and maybe my son will be okay. These fuckers don't think they're going to have great grandchildren. So enough of that. But anyway.
I just don't like the idea of somebody just buying part of the earth and saying it's theirs and then making money on it. They didn't create it. So
I agree.
Human, I think that's where you're going, and I agree with you. And I'm pretty sure you do.
It's supposed to be a political show.
Okay.
Human, Brian may agree with you. I may agree with you. You know who doesn't agree with you? Donald Trump. That's why Donald Trump must go.
All right, so there are a few more that Human had. Human, I'm going to give you one more, okay, because I know you get a lot of them here, and I want to be fair to everybody else. I'll go with your last one, Human. So you said, the intelligence of mankind increased because of the lack of fear from nature and other humans. Dave, you want me to go first? Do it quickly? Or you want to go?
It's a yes, no.
If it's a yes, no, I'm going to say no.
I would question, has the intelligence of humans really increased? So I would say no.
Well, I think that
Really?
it increased when they started eating meat. I think their brains got bigger.
Oh, okay, yeah. And we'll go back. No.
But after that, no. Look,
my point is, if that's true, if our intelligence increased, then how come?
I'm agreeing with you, Dave. I'm just saying in that particular instance.
I'm just saying. I'm asking because people would say that. The norm was, oh yeah, it's gotten better. We may have more access to information, which we do. We may know more things may be known. I don't think anybody's going to put a leash on anyone to stop the coronavirus. But see, I think that's a very limited.
Right. Well, I mean, I'll give you an example, Dave. Thought experiment.
Intelligence also implies, even though they're separate. I mean, the most intelligent person in the world maybe would say, you know what? The most intelligent thing is just to kill everybody else because they can't get along, and I'll kill myself at the same time. But that doesn't make it the right thing.
Well, not only that, Dave. A thought experiment. If I took David Price and took him back 25,000 years and just threw him out in the middle of a field when he was a baby, he'd be grunting for the rest of his life. We could take a baby from that time period.
I watched 1 million BC when I was a kid, and Raquel Welch.
I knew you were going to say Raquel Welch.
Raquel Welch would be waiting for me in that fur bikini.
Okay.
And so I'm okay with that.
I think she likes you.
Raquel Welch doesn't. She doesn't.
So, again, if you take a baby from 25,000 years ago and bring him or her back to our society today, then they certainly would be able to speak the language. So it depends on the environment.
Okay? Well, yeah. I mean, we could play with that. It was a great question and to play with. And, sometimes, I mean, quite honestly, we did as well as we can. But that's another thing. A lot of questions just can't be answered yes or no. They have to be qualified. And to do it is doing a disservice to yourself or those you're giving the answers to. But I understand it's a very good way to find out what can be answered and what can't, yes.
Okay, so human, you'll have to, forgive me for not going through all of yours, and I appreciate it. I really do. And we could go through all of yours. We'd be going until 3 a.m, and they're great points. But I'm just going to let everybody else get a
Christ, Brian, just
here.
Move on.
All right, so some people say they agree with us. Daylene's back.
Hey, Daylene.
She agrees with you, Dave. Daylene says Trump knew.
You're brilliant. Every brilliant person I know, the definition of brilliance is they agree with me.
Okay. Well, she has a question that came up.
Oh, Daylene, I'm ready. Go.
Okay. And we went through this on a previous show, but it's a good question, even more so now because
Jesus Christ asked the question.
Oh, I'm being you now.
This goddamn person I've ever
now,
heard.
If I were you, I could spend 18 minutes on the question.
But that's my answer. That's not my question.
Okay.
You're going. Oh, by the way, ask the question.
Okay. What's Biden's best VP pick? Daylene asks.
Whoa. That's not a yes no question.
No, it isn't. You have to.
I'm going to preface it this way. I don't know if you know this, but I mentioned.
She says Sanders. She thinks Sanders is the best VP pick. But just so you know, I'm going to add that there.
Are you done?
I'm doing it for Daylene, not for you or for me. Okay.
You done?
Go ahead.
Make sure you're finished. Make sure you're finished. Okay. Is our Australian visitor
Keith?
still there, or is he gone?
He did say will do whatever you ask him. He said he would do. I don't know.
Is he still there or he's not?
Keith, if you're still there, put a note in.
The thing is, I mentioned Daylene. People. We designed this show. You got to be really, really a loser to listen to the whole show. No, we designed so you can pop in and out. So I'm assuming you weren't here at the beginning. My son and I tonight. He is in Australia. He's there for a year with our 2 grandchildren and his daughter. And we discussed politics tonight. And guess what question it was? Who will Biden pick? And tangentially, who is the best pick? So I'm just going to throw out some real quick names. Had Amy Klobuchar not have let off the murder cop, which she did, she would be viable. And I think she might have been leaning, from what I understand, she might have been the leading candidate. She is done. All right. Elizabeth Warren would make a very good vice president, but I think what's going to happen is she's going to be given another post somewhere, Secretary of Labor, Secretary of Commerce, and be leashed on these, corrupt moneymakers. I think, in my estimation, the governor of Michigan was a rising star as she stood up to those gun-toting fascist NRA, small penis people with their big guns. But politics is also of the moment, and politicians think they control it. They don't. If you're asking me, so I'm just giving you my opinion, based on the ramifications from the death of George Floyd, I would be hard-pressed if I were Joe Biden not to choose an African American, assuming that you believed two things. You could get along with them because the president mustn't, but even more importantly, that they could someday step into the presidency with voice. See, one of the things about vice president is it's like the minor leagues. It really is, where they say warm bucket of spit, but it was really warm bucket of piss. But the one thing it does, it gets you close to the White House. So, if you run, you at least got an idea, right? They know more. A vice president would know more about running government than I would, because I'm not there. So
who would you specifically pick?
Well, I'm going to that now. So that narrow space. So let's go. Who we got? We got Kamala Harris.
Right. Val Demings.
We got Val Demings. We got Stacey Abrams.
Stacey Abrams. Now, the mayor of Atlanta, I don't know. Is it Keisha?
Not Harris. I keep wanting to say Harris. Anyway, she's in play. And the newest name to be thrown into that mix is the Muriel Bowser, who's the mayor.
And Judy Skoll just said that Michelle Obama is still on the list.
Michelle Obama, listen. You want my first? Of course. I wanted her over Barack when they were there. Of course you'd take Michelle Obama. I do not think. Now, Judy Price, who's no relation to Judy Skoll, except they're both named Judy and both are artists, and I like both of them. But here's the thing. Judy Price has some candidate. Would you like to know who her candidate is?
Who?
Barack Obama. Do you realize that there's nothing in the Constitution? It merely says if you serve 2 terms as president, you can never serve again as president. You can serve in any other capacity. We had an ex-president who became Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. And there's a lot of people that believe that when an opening comes, if it comes, that Biden will put Barack on the Supreme Court. That's really what Barack Obama was. He was a constitutional lawyer. That's his area of expertise. I love either Obama. Okay, I'd even take one of the daughters. I don't care. Now back to the reality thing. Originally, and I'm going to stay with this. When I was looking at that, if anybody's interested, my choice for president was Elizabeth Warren for the Democrat. My choice in I tried to ball out 2016. My choice for president was Bernie Sanders. Okay, it didn't work out that way. That's fine. Didn't work out this way for Elizabeth either. But my second choice was a team. My second choice that I thought would have the best, I thought Elizabeth Warren would be best for the country. My reservation is she the best person to beat Donald Trump? We'd still have that, women's question, all that stuff. It isn't fair, but it's there. So my team was Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. So I guess I'm going to stay with that for now. What's going to happen, though, in politics, they're going to go deep into vetting. And vetting is a word that some people don't know. It just means they look in your background, and they look for everything. And there's a great book, if you want to understand politics, it's a fiction book by Robert Penn Warren called All the King's Men. It was also an Academy Award-winning film starring Broderick Crawford, who was, that highway guy, but anyway, this. And it was Huey Long. It's a fictionalized story of Huey Long. And there's a quote in there where I first read it in 1970. It stayed with me forever. It's a political book, and they said, they're telling this young guy, right, go out and get dirt on this other candidate. He said, well, I don't know. He said, what if I don't? He said, the old politician says, man is born in the stink of the deity and dies in the stench of the shroud, meaning there's always dirt. So there may be something in Miss Harris's background, although I kind of doubt it because she's been pretty vetted. Um, Nothing against Stacey Abrams. Sometimes it's a left-handed compliment. Stacey Abrams would not be my vice president. What I would do, I say, Stacey, look, I got a more important job for you. You're really into this voter, expanding voter rolls, but also keeping the GOP from what they do, cheating, in terms of voter disenfranchisement. I'm creating you. You are the czar of that. Go change that. Elizabeth, do you want? Okay, I'm going to take a new position. Go deal with those bankers, or you want the cabinet position. Muriel is interesting as a possibility, but I don't know. It's kind of hard to jump from mayor, even though it is mayor of Washington, D.C. And Val becomes in play quite a bit, depending on how and where. If they thought, and there's an old politician who does believe this, he's already told Joe Biden this, he's a friend of Joe's, said, you take Val, you got Florida. If there's some practicality, and again, people, it's nice to pick the best. Sometimes you don't. In my lifetime, in 1960, John Kennedy and Lyndon Johnson hated each other until the day that John Kennedy was assassinated, and Lyndon Johnson hated John Kennedy ever after. But Kennedy was smart, Johnson was ambitious, and Kennedy knew that if he put Johnson on the team, he thought he could relatively control him, and he would win, and that's exactly what happened. So sometimes, again, I'm getting back to the practicality of it. Politics makes strange bedfellows, cliche but true. But I went all the way around examining them. If I had to, if I'm going to have to spend 5 hours with Trump, if I get it wrong, I'm going to go with Kamala tonight.
Okay. Well, that's what I said previously about 2 or 3 shows ago. We had a show on vice presidential picks. And I would agree with you, Dave. It's going to be Kamala Harris.
Okay. If Brian agrees, I've got to find somebody else. Next show, ask that question again, Judy, because I don't really want to agree with Brian. It's like the kiss of death.
All right. Well, you're going to have to, Dave.
Got another question or two?
Oh, we've got comments. One of these questions, CB Unglesby, who frequently shows up in our chat room from YouTube, says, question, how certify the election? Is there a Trumpster in the post? I guess certification, but, are we talking here about the Electoral College or the actual votes? It went up to the Supreme Court in 2000.
Here's the thing, okay? This is not easy. I'm going to deal with it the way I have to deal with it. Joe Biden has to win so convincingly that it can't go to one state or the Supreme Court. It can't.
Right. You know where it's going to end up.
Now, here's the problem, people. The polls are all over the place, and we do have to do a little history here. When I was a reporter in 1974, there were basically 3 polling companies: Harris, Gallup, and Roper. And they were all pretty legitimate, right? And they might, they had to do that. Now there's 562,000. Everybody has a poll. So just throw them all away. Too many communications. One of the problems was that they were all using landlines. Still, secretive. You don't say. The big thing with Trump, a lot of people believe that it wasn't a plan. They were embarrassed to say they voted for Trump or were going to vote for Trump. So you really can't believe polls. But one of the biggest things that's wrong with polls is, even if they're accurate, they talk about Joe Biden. I've seen this. The largest lead he exhibits nationally is 14%. But that's completely meaningless if the numbers are coming from New York and California and New Jersey and Oregon and Washington, which he cannot lose. Now, if they're coming from Florida, so really it's a poll state by state is what you have to find. And first of all, you can't believe a Democratic poll necessarily, nor should you, or Republican poll. They're skewered. You can skewer. I mean, you saw those yes no questions. I mean, they were great. That's how you do a poll. I can get any answers I want by what questions I ask, right? And by what words I use, whether they're, because words, again, quick language lesson, words have denotation. And what that means, they mean the thing, but they have connotation. And next Tuesday, here's a hint, I want to do the connotations and denotations of defunding the police. So put that in your...
All right, okay, we'll keep that. I don't know, I think where CB's going with this was his next comment, because he said, and I'm just assuming, CB, you said that Trump will lose the election, but will not certify it, basically, and Trump will put it again. Yeah. And that's our fear.
Well, of course. Now, Brian and I, you and I differ on this. Here's the thing.
Well, he said 1 vote per state, GOP puts him in again.
No, all that could happen. But again, he can't not certify the vote if it's certified.
Mm-hmm.
If people think it's legitimate, I don't care. Now, I don't want to start a war. You said that tonight, but I just think this is so funny. There's a lot of nut gun cases out there who welcome. If Donald Trump is their boy, he doesn't get in, they're going to create insurrection. No. They're not. If they do, the military will crush them before you know what's up. The military, again, I believe this to be true. It'll be proven or not. But right now, at least from the 5 of the top generals or 5 of the top military minds in the country, they said, we work for the Constitution, Mr. Trump. We do not work for you.
Right.
And we have to hope that there's enough people, that will come through on that.
Until he hires Sean Spicer, the Joint Chief of Staff. I'm saying he'll do that.
No, he won't. And you know why he won't? I know you were just trying to be funny.
Yes, but this is the way he works.
Yes, but Sean Spicer.
I know it's not Spicer. We know I'm joking. I'm being sarcastic. But they'll put somebody who will agree with him.
There's a thing now that he has. Listen to the groups he's alienated. The FBI. Would you agree?
Yes.
CIA.
Yes.
Every working, when I say high-level bureaucrat that really believes in their job more than their party in D.C., I think that he's alienated them. The military.
Yes.
Okay.
Half of the military.
Stormy Daniels, he's alienated her. No, what I'm saying is Trump believes naively or stupidly or egotistically or narcissistically. He said, and this is, I want to time into this. I do. I've been thinking a lot about this. Only I can solve that. Do you remember when he said that, Brian? That was one of his campaigns. We've got all these problems and only I can solve them. So I'm not letting one goddamn Trump supporter saying it wasn't his fault. He said, use his own words, only I can solve. The problem with that is, and that's why he'll never be a dictator. That's why he wants to be one. He can't. There's no military dictator. And please, if somebody can prove me wrong, because I have to be careful. Because I always say, don't say no, don't say all. But it'd be very rare to find a military dictator who doesn't have an army. Would you agree, Brian?
Correct.
So his army is a bunch of gun nuts against the still the finest.
Right, they'll lose. They won't even challenge them when it comes down to it.
Yeah. So all that stuff. I mean, and again, you have to put some faith, and this gets back. Even though you know the system is corrupt, even though you know money can buy it, there comes a point, and you've seen it throughout history. You have to hope, that Trump soundly defeats him. Biden soundly defeats Trump, so you don't throw any question into it, and then hope that the institutions that are supposed to do that do that.
Good.
And that's all you have. You don't have anything else.
We have a comment from Judy Williams. Judy Williams. Where'd that come from? Judy Washington. I knew a Judy Williams long ago, but Judy Washington says,
I know what you did. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. I agree about Warren and Abrams, but Harris is questionable for her prosecution.
Correct.
And black.
Correct. Absolutely correct. Here's the thing, though. And again, I'm stepping outside of my area. Okay. A lot of times we have a tendency, and it's wrong to say all black people, right? All Democrats, all this, all Bruce Springsteen fans. It doesn't know what. So again, we would see how practical they are. Would they rather have Donald Trump in office and not vote for Joe Biden because they don't like prosecutors? The other thing's been said, I believe she has a white husband, I think. So she
she does.
What is fully black? Well, right now, and I'm certainly, Judy, I think it's a valid question. I think it's there. But I do think this, unfortunately or fortunately, I know you're going to say Donald Trump didn't, but Donald Trump went to everything that's based in. I think most people really want their president to be relatively articulate, right? And Kamala Harris is that. Kamala Harris is black.
She'll win her debate flat out. You know that.
Well, yeah. I don't. Well, Pence might.
One debate with Pence, it's over.
Pence might say, I don't want to be on stage with a woman because I might grab her by the pussy because that's what the president wants me to do. I guess you knew that, right? He said, I will not be in a meeting if it's just me and a woman. I will not do that. What the hell's with that? But anyway, yes. So I think what's going to happen is, I think at the end, and again, we're in this new era. You have to, I mean, this isn't new. I would ask Black Americans who have every reason to be suspicious of prosecutors. I've certainly, they're poster children for the inequities and the inequalities in America. But, I would say, look, it just comes down to one simple thing. Are you and your people better off with Donald Trump and Pence and Joe Biden and whomever he chooses? And there you are. I mean, but yes, well, is it? Of course. And we all, and I was a political reporter, and political reporters love to play that game. And who's going to decide who's going to be the vice presidential candidate? Right? It's not going to be you. It's not going to be me. It's not going to be Judy. We may be listened to. It's going to be, at the end, it's going to be Joe Biden. And probably, again, he has a brain trust, a very small one. Probably, I would assume Jill's a part of it. Maybe one of his sons, whomever. When I say he's kind of, younger people have mentors. I don't know if he still has or if anybody's active, but or somebody's on his staff, that he trusts. And they'll sit down and they'll make the decision.
Mm-hmm. We have a few more human mentions, a lot of different potential candidates.
Just one for you, but then we'll keep coming back.
Okay, well, I'll tie in one of them. He mentions Susan Rice, then C.B. Unglesby mentioned he thought that she's the best VP choice because she's smart.
I'm sorry.
Susan Rice.
She's I'm not saying she's bad. Here's and you have to look at this. It's sort of a way that I also look at political change. You have to ask yourself, is it easier to change it from the outside or the inside? So it's here. My question would be, Susan Rice has a lot of, I don't think a lot of qualities. Does she have, how many elections has she won? Right. Because she's, not saying she's a bad candidate. I think that all maybe it influences politicians too much. But I'm not going to put,
Why can't he just keep it simple and say, look, Harris is the biggest name out there. She's African American.
It's not the way the game works, Brian. And trust me again, people, I'm not knowledgeable on many things, but I've covered enough politics in my life to know that it is a game. And all is good and bad with that game. Why is it a game? Because they said winning's everything. It's just a line. What will you cross? You don't think everybody in the NFL? I despise Tom Brady and the New England Patriots, not as much as I hate Donald Trump. But Tom Brady's a winning quarterback. Bill Belichick is a winner. I think the difference is that Belichick and Brady apparently will cross lines more to win, and they think, than some other teams do. He can't make it simple. And part of the game is you have to at least appear to, because remember, egos are huge in politics. As you move up, they get even bigger. So you have to at least make overtures and bring people in because this means a lot. It means a lot for Stacey Abrams, especially, or Muriel Bowser, or what I would call the outsiders candidates to come in. That elevates them to a next level. They were considered, and they have political ambitions. Mm-hmm. So I think that's part of it. And I think the second thing is you really do. Let's go to McGovern, and his vice president. You remember what happened there, right? They found out after he'd already named him that he had mental, and back then he had electroshock, and that was not the kill. I mean, there was a lot of kill factors. So I guess what I'm trying to say is you don't have to rush into it. Mm-hmm. My thing, if I were advising Joe Biden, I'm not. I'm saying just stay out of this shit. Do exactly what you're doing. Be the anti-Trump. Go. And I think the difference is when Trump does something, he's acting, and he's a bad actor. When Joe Biden does something, yeah, he's partially acting, but he's a compassionate man. I think he wanted to get out there and talk to the family, right, of George Floyd. And again, I'll just submit this. I think this
commiserate. Certainly, he knows what it's like to lose.
I think this alone. If I had no other reason, I would vote for Joe Biden over Donald Trump, and I have 5 gazillion reasons. And anybody researches. And I'm not going to tell you because I want some people to do some damn legwork, get lazy. Look at the amount of time Donald Trump spent on the phone with the family. Just the amount of time. Don't even look at what was said. And look at the amount of time Joe Biden spent with the family.
And he spoke over them. Dave, we had a lot of comments, and we addressed just pretty much all the comments. A couple of things I left out because just can't have too many comments for each person. There's one,
but they were all so positive. Don't we have any Dave sucks comments? Or I mean, I love those. Don't we get any Trumpers watching this damn show?
Well, Gary Peacock isn't watching tonight. If he had been here, he could have done it. But I want to leave us with something a little bit different. I did want to show a short clip with Trump's speech at West Point where he was holding this glass, and I want to get your opinion of what you're seeing.
I can't see it, but you talk about it.
All right, okay. So I'm going to put it on, and I'll talk about it as it's going
people, on. Right? Just like my wife, and I'm not saying I will say to my wife something, and she'll turn around. I said to Brian, "Don't put it on. Just talk about it." And he says, "I'm going to put it on now," so he doesn't listen. Go ahead, Brian.
All right. So here we go.
Can I at least hear it?
I think you will. Yes. All right.
Donald Trump gave his speech to graduates at West Point on Saturday. Still, many were transfixed on his behavior throughout, mainly when he went for a drink of water. As shown in a tweet from Vox reporter,
so he's holding the glass.
The president holds the glass in his right hand and doesn't seem to be able to make it to his lips. He then raises his left hand to help guide the glass of water to his lips and tilt it into his mouth. It's not the first time that Trump's drinking strategy has become the focus of people and the media. In 2017, the president awkwardly drank from a bottle of water during a presser on Asia. For some, the incident represents another opportunity to ridicule the president. As the New York Daily News reports, many used the moment to share images of Barack Obama smiling and holding a coconut with one hand. They also compared Trump to former congressional rival and president candidate Marco Rubio. Others decided to take the
Okay, Dave, I'm turning that off there. Hold on for a second. Let me get my volume back for you. Okay, I don't want to have any echo. Okay, now you're on. So he holds the glass out and he pushes it up. Okay, now you all saw what he did. Glass in the right hand, pushes it up with the left to his lips. He says that the glass was wet on the outside and he had to make sure he put his hand there to hold it up. I don't think that's true.
You don't know that. Only Donald Trump knows.
So what do you think, Dave?
I'm more concerned about his failure to navigate the steps, which was the second thing that happened. I've dropped. Okay, I'm sitting here. I have this office that I could show you. I can't see. I don't know what I'd be showing you. But anyway, my wife, and again, it comes back. Those of you who are married can appreciate this. We try to set some rules, but this is now my office, but it's also our bedroom. And she says, no eating in the bedroom. Well, one day I disagreed with that, and I decided to break a rule. And I had a large soda in a not a plastic, but one of those, not styrofoam, but the new things there. Spilled it all over. All right. So, accidents happen with that. I'm more worried about that. And Brian, you and I actually disagreed on this, and it gets to a personality. I think I don't explain why. I actually addressed that fact on there, and I'm concerned about his health. And I think you kind of read it as, don't be concerned about him. I don't care if this, no, it's not that. What I'm saying is, I don't want the president of the United States to be incapacitated. Yes, we survived a different time. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, victim of polio, right? Woodrow Wilson, stroke, and Mrs. Wilson ran it. Ronnie with Alzheimer's, and Jane running it for a while, his wife. Or Nancy, I said Jane. Jane was his first.
Thinking of Tarzan and Jane.
Jane Wyman was.
Oh, okay.
So what I'm saying is, I want the president, good, bad, ugly, or whatever, to be in the fullest capacity of his or her faculties. I think the country is safer. Right. The second reason I think, I know, I don't know this. I would assume that Melania, if there is something wrong, I'm assuming that Melania would know. I also want to address next, if we could, Brian, a little bit next time. I want to go off on Melania a little bit, not tonight. Right. But I'm assuming she would know that her husband's. I'm assuming, it may be too close a relationship, but I think, the best relationship, or the one that seems to be the closest, is Ivanka and her father. Donald, I think, and rightfully so, is disappointed with his two boys. Barron's too young. Marla's daughter is now, getting to be a lawyer, and she's going to get kept away. But so his family, and they've said before that even a couple of his ex-wives, there's a relationship. I would hope that they would, even though he's the president, like somebody sit down and say, Dad, or somebody say, you or husband, you've got to get this checked out, and find out what it is. But knowing Donald Trump only wants to do one thing. He wants to win, and he's proven that.
Right.
And he also has no ability to play to human weakness. Now, I'll tell you something. It's too late for Donald Trump to do this. It's too late for him to make the greatest speech on race, at Tulsa. It's just too late for Donald Trump. And he can't do it. But if he could, you could turn that, if he is failing a little bit, into, I've got a little bit of this, but I'm going to work on it. I'm going to show the American people if I ever think it's too much, I will walk away, right? I realize now, like you, I need help. I've always prided myself on this, but now maybe I need some help. That's what a leader would do. And you know what? Not Donald Trump, but somebody else. They'd be valued for that. But that's not what Donald Trump can do. So that's why I'm concerned about it. It wasn't. And there's a part of me, if you want the really bad part of me, here's what it is. I don't want Donald Trump to die or leave office. I want him to get his ass kicked in November, so he knows he was a bad bad enough so that he didn't get reelected. That's it.
That's it. Well, Dave, it's been, I think, a nice show. A show we hadn't intended on doing, but we did it. And
I would like to ask anybody who writes it. I know it's hard. Well, Gary will do that, but look,
Gary just came in, by the way, so you're in trouble.
Gary, don't call me. No. Here's the thing. What I'd like to do. Well, let me address Gary. Gary called the other night. Gary and I've been friends since before 1968, but we both got political at the same time. And he did something that I wasn't. He made a criticism of the show, and a criticism of me personally, and he was absolutely 100% right. Okay, he was right. So my point is, we're flying blind in this, and one of the things, as Brian kind of said, we're kind of winging it. It's almost like we're having a conversation. And tonight it was really interesting because I just laid back in my chair because I can't see myself. But the idea of this, we're learning. Okay, we're not Donald Trump. We don't think we know it all. We're not Donald Trump. We're not going to do it all. We want to make this show the best, not for us. Okay, although I like to be successful for us. We want to make it the best for the listeners. And that's not bullshit. I mean, if we don't get any listeners, hell, Brian, we don't have to get all this.
And remember, the invitation's for everybody to come on here, even if it's for 5 or 10 minutes.
I'm just saying, Brian, I'm just saying, I don't care if they never come on. If they don't listen, we don't have a show.
Right.
You really, like when the tree falls in the woods and nobody hears it. I mean, that's exactly what we're doing here. So, but if you have a suggestion to make it better, and look, I can be as sarcastic, as satiric, as troll-like, and probably better than most of you. And that, you could do that. That's not what. But if you have a legitimate thing, like, whatever it is, let us know. And the second thing is, I want to thank everyone, every single person tonight, who gave us a question. Now, I don't think, and again, I'm judging it in the moment, and you can't judge in the moment. And I'll go back, and if I can stand my own voice, I'll listen to it. But I think we did try, Brian. I think we did try to take all the questions seriously. And it was easy to do because they all were serious.
Right. They weren't joking.
No doubt. And I really appreciate that because, again, if we're serious, if we're saying we want to get you involved in the show, which we said, I don't want to be hypocrites. I leave that to Donald Trump and the Republican Party. And one way we can do that is I think, maybe – with some announcements. I like the way this one ran, Brian. I wasn't real crazy about the other special when we did. I think this is a good way to run a special show. I don't think, everything came off of those questions pretty much once they started.
Right.
I'd be perfectly happy doing an all question show with the understanding I love the yes, no, but some can't be done that way. With the understanding that, I like that. I mean, it makes me think.
Right. And now we're at
So,
the time where we still can take the questions, because if you get too popular, then you can't obviously read all of the questions.
well, then what I would do then is I would have my own show in conjunction with that, where I would take. I know what you're saying, Brian, but this is just personal. It's a good way to end it for me. One of the things that I miss most about the old DC, pre-pandemic, I used to say when I was a reporter for 10 years, it was a paid graduate school, right? Better than going to any graduate school you could go to. And I kind of felt that way about DC, but instead of getting paid, it was free. It's unbelievable, the people that I got to hear speak. So a lot of them were question and answer. And I always had two problems with it. The first problem was it was always shortchanged, and I thought that was the most important part. Now I understand they're selling this or that or the other, and so I said I'd be happy to just do. I would like just trying to answer questions. And the second thing is, and this, Brian, we'd have to do this. You were saying, but because there were so many questions, I didn't like when you had to write them out and give them, because the questions a lot of times come up in the presentation. Like, why would I know what I want to ask before you present something? So I think we avoided those by not having more than the listeners that we have. And at this point, I mean, I'm surprised that somebody didn't have this question to me. This will be the last thing I say tonight, I promise, because I got to go pee. But I'm just surprised you get Dave, you're so much better than Brian. Why do you let Brian have so much time? Brian, your closeout. Okay. Bye, everyone. See you Tuesday night.
Man's got to go to the bathroom.
You want me to bring the camera in?
That's the only number one he can say. But no, that's not even a joke. I guess that worked. Well, listen, everybody, I appreciate everybody coming on. And not only that, remember that if you're watching on Facebook, this is not just Facebook. It is Periscope, and for the Periscope viewers, we appreciate it. Doesn't matter what platform you're on. It doesn't matter. We're really happy. It's actually being broadcast to Russia, but that means that those who watch it in Russia have to know how to speak English fluently to see this. So we only get one or two, but it's really better than nothing. So again, we have 4 platforms. That's Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, and VK, and that's of course Russia. And somebody just said, Brian Sherman at Gandy's Beach, New Jersey. My feed is not great. Yeah, Gandy's Beach. I was down there a couple of years ago. Did a video after the storm, and it was pretty rough. But anywhere down near the bay, it's really tough. I guess it's Brian. Yes. I guess Greenwich. It's always kind of tough if you have your GPS on. It's always a tough ride back, because if you're in the dark and your GPS is off, it's really tough down there. That's where I like to fly my drone, actually. So anyway, I don't want to go too far into that, but thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it. We'll be on Tuesday or any other day where there's major news. And again, if anybody wants to stop by, get yourself a Skype account that's free, and we'll put you on for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever you want. It's that easy. Not everybody likes doing that, but it is what it is. All right, so we'll see you next time, which is probably Tuesday at 8. Be safe.